We do, excuse me, record our meetings, as you can see, and they will be recorded and then posted to the city's web team and published, so you can view them, or you can have people who haven't been able to come view them later. There is a chat function and Q&A. I see somebody is already, I think, put, oh, it's the agenda is in the chat. Thank you, Franziska. Normally what we do for introductions is go around the whole Zoom screen, but because we do have a packed agenda, what I'm going to do is those people who are on the board of the two NACs, because you are now attending the Sexton Mountain Neighbors Southwest Joint NAC meeting. I'm going to have the board members introduce themselves. The three people who are reporting out for Beaverton Police, for the THPRD, and for the city introduce themselves when your time comes up. And those people who are doing the two land use presentations, and then we'll have a presentation for the restaurant scene from Megan Braunsten when she comes on board. Oh, there she is. Hi there. She's got a fantastic PowerPoint. So each person will introduce themselves as we come up to your presentation. So I'll start by saying my name is Sharon Dunham, and I am the Sexton Mountain Chair. And we are, going together with Neighbors Southwest. So I will punt over to Alison for her introduction.
Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Alison Balbag. I'm the chair for Neighbors Southwest. It's an honor to be here with you all, and we look forward to a wonderful meeting tonight. And I will pass it over to Jim Blake.
Thank you, Alison. Yeah, I'm Jim Blake on the Sexton Mountain board. Came on the same time as Sharon, and currently the treasurer. And I will pass it just to anybody. Is there any other who's left for?
I do not see Officer Fleckenstein. Is he? I don't see him. So let's go on to THPRD update. And Mark, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, thank you. My name is Mark Hokkanen. I'm the Risk and Contract Manager with the Park District. And I live just north of Hart, and my kids went to Sexton Mountain. So I'm very familiar with the Sexton Mountain NAC and the associated programs. Just want to give you a brief update on some of the Park District activities. As you may know, with OHA and COVID restrictions being lifted, we are gearing up for summer, and summer registration is open. And we have a lot of large offerings for youth summer camps, classes, and programs. So if you'd like to register, you can do that via the website, which I'll post shortly. Also, because we're offering a large number of programs this summer, we are also in the process of trying to hire a lot of part-time and seasonal employees. So if you're interested in any type of job or know somebody, please visit our website, and I'll have a specific link to those particular jobs. We right now have lots of summer camp staff, instructors in fitness, aquatics, dance, park maintenance, custodians, and also need for some inclusion assistance. Something that I know this NAC is very interested in is the 158th Avenue Wetland Trail. This project includes a soft surface trail that's going to connect the southwest Sexton Mountain Drive right there at the end of the elementary school's parking lot to the West Side Trail. They're going to have a virtual community meeting on June 24th, beginning at 6 p.m. So you can learn more about that particular project and provide input. Again, I will put a third link to a project website here in the chat. There's also a second workshop coming up on June 30th for a new community park that's going to be over by the Denny and Lombard area. They are going to do this particular workshop to find out what the citizens would like as far as a park design with a special event. And the event is called Frozen in the Heat Celebration. And so you can join the Park District for a free event with activities, music, giveaways, and they're going to feature your favorite Disney characters from Frozen. Mm-hmm. So you can drop in anytime. That event's going to be between 5:30 and 8 p.m. at Wonderland Park, which is at 6400 Southwest King Boulevard in Beaverton. And again, I'll have a link for that as well. And then lastly, this Wednesday, the Park District will be, Board of Directors holding their budget meeting. It's actually for the purpose of discussing the budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2021. That was approved by the Budget Committee. And so this will be the Board of Directors' chance to review and finalize that. I should mention that because our NACs are combined with the Neighbor Southwest and Sexton Mountain, one particular staff person, Gary Keck, who's our Design and Development Manager, represents Neighbor Southwest. And what we've decided, since both of us don't need to be here talking about the Park District, is we will start alternating in the future. So as soon as he's available, I think next month, the next time there's a meeting, we'll show up together, but then after that, we'll alternate in the future. And I'll happy to take any questions if anything comes up while I'm trying to put all these things in the chat.
And while you're waiting for questions, I just want to acknowledge that I totally failed to let everyone know how to participate effectively in tonight's meeting. So if you're here as an attendee, your video is off and your audio is muted unless unmuted by one of the hosts, and that's just to maintain the integrity of the meeting and prevent Zoom bombing. But you are welcome to use the Q&A feature. I see that we already have somebody who figured out how to utilize that. If you would like to ask a question, just using your audio, just use the raise hand feature located on the bottom of your screen. And one of the hosts will know, that will notify the host to unmute your microphone so you can ask the presenter a question using your microphone instead. So just wanted to mention that. Thanks, everyone.
And one other thing that I'll mention as well is at the conclusion of this meeting, if you see all these links that you don't want to write down necessarily, if you go to the bottom of the chat and where it says to all panelists, and there's an ellipsis, 3 dots to the right. If you click on that, it will say save chat. You can save it and print it out and have all of that written out, and so you don't have to take notes.
And just as a reminder really quick to our panelists this evening, it's super easy to forget, but on the chat, you have to use the drop-down to select panelists and attendees if you want something public for all of the attendees in the audience tonight. So, so if you make the mistake, just go ahead and copy it over and send it to all panelists and attendees so everybody can get the information.
All sorts of Zoom lessons tonight. Thank you, Franziska. I still do not see Paul, Officer Fleckenstein, and he might be working tonight. So are there any questions for Mark with THPRD before we go on? And Mark, I know that Gary Keck and I were in Leadership Beaverton together, so it'll be fun to see him again and thank you so much for all that you've done. You have been so informative with our meetings all throughout this time.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next one is Franziska, and she is representing the city update.
Great, thanks Sharon. My name is Franziska Rose. I'm the Public Involvement Coordinator with the City of Beaverton, and I am the staff liaison to this lovely NAC. And I just want to take a quick moment to introduce my colleague here, Elena Wu, who some of you may or may not be familiar with. She's assisted other programs at the City of Beaverton, including the arts program and cultural inclusion, and now she's helping us out for the summer. I just want to give her a minute to introduce herself. You may see her at more NAC meetings in the future. So Elena, feel free to take a few minutes and then I'll go into the city update.
Hi everyone, my name is Elena and I'm working with the neighborhood department in the mayor's office this summer, and I'm currently a college student.
And where are you going and what are you going to school for?
I'm actually at Cornell University and I'm studying a pre-med and maybe public policy. We're still figuring it out.
Well, we are super grateful to have Elena on staff this summer. So if you see her instead of me at a couple of NAC meetings, you know who she is. So real quick, just a couple of things on the city end of topics. So first things first, welcome Jen Hayarama. So the Beaverton City Council appointed Jen Hayarama as the new city manager. The appointment comes after a robust recruitment process with community and staff engagement. Hiring of a city manager supports the city's transition from a council manager form of government to a council manager form of government as outlined in Beaverton's new city charter. She most recently served as the city manager of Tracy, California. Her local government leadership career began in 2000 as the assistant finance director of the town of Los Gatos, California. She then transitioned to the city of Tracy as the administrative services director and the interim assistant manager. And then subsequently, she served as the assistant city manager of Livermore, California, and then the city manager of Scotts Valley, California. She is expected to begin in August 2021. And Beaverton's new city charter, in case you're not familiar with that, went into effect at the beginning of 2021 and was approved by voters during the May 2020 election. For more information, visit www.beavertonoregon.gov/charter. Summer reading is underway, always exciting. Beaverton City Library invites kids, teens, and adults to read this summer, earn prizes, and give back to those in need. Complete 15 hours of reading, listening, audiobooks, or being read to, or doing a family activity. No registration is required. Print off a reading log from the website, pick up one from the library, or create your own to track your progress. Between July 5th and August 15th, kids and teens can visit beavertonlibrary.org/SRP-done for completion instructions. And adults can read for a good cause by tracking hours read through August 15th to earn meals for recipients of Meals on Wheels people delivery service. For every 100 hours read collectively, the new Friends of the Beaverton City Library will donate one meal, up to 135 total. And get ready for fun events planned all summer long. Visit beavertonoregon.gov/events and beavertonlibrary.org/events to learn about virtual and in-person upcoming happenings. And I'll go ahead and put all of those links in the chat. But if there's anybody that has any questions on this or anything else city related, I'm more than happy to take those now.
Bonnie.
I muted myself. Can you go a little slower because, and I don't know how to print this thing out. I am old and I have been dyslexic all my life.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, absolutely. Bonnie, how about I go ahead? I'll forward you the notes that I was just reading off for all of those updates, and then you can. My apologies. I tend to talk fast.
No, that's okay. So, you didn't know.
But it's always a good reminder to definitely slow that down. Was there any of those topics in particular that there were anything that you had questions on?
Well, it went so fast and I'm still trying to catch up with what everything is. Sure. It's called beaverton.org and something.
So Beaverton, Oregon.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah, beavertonoregon.gov is just the main city webpage. And then everything, any link, any sublink, sub webpage is just the / and then,
okay,
and then the webpage.
How do I print this thing out again?
So if you want to save the chat, if you open the chat box, The 3 dots, the ellipsis that you see on the right-hand side near where you would type your message, if you just click that drop down, you can save the chat. But like I said, I will go ahead and forward this email to you, and will definitely remind myself to slow down in future meetings, as I should for every single meeting.
No, it's okay. I know I'm on catch up, so
No
fine.
worries.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
You keep us honest, Bonnie, okay? Okay.
Is there anyone in the audience who has any questions?
Okay, and I'm willing to wager that Officer Fleckenstein is working tonight. So we are ahead of schedule. And so I am going to turn it over to Sheila Sahu. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, but it's phase 2 of the Sexton Mountain water pump station upgrade. And you have a team, I think Matt, Adam, and maybe some others as well. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and your team, and you are up.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's Sheila Sahu, so you were very, very close there. And I realized, Matt, do you want to share screen for the presentation?
Yes, I will do that. I can
I
start.
know you didn't quite establish that. Yep, so I'm Sheila Sahu. I'm a project engineer at the city of Beaverton, and we will be talking about the Sexton Mountain pump station upgrade. And I'm gonna just roll it over to Matt, so that if you could, yeah, popcorn it.
So I'm Matt Hasty with Angelo Planning Group, part of the project team helping with land use. I'm going to share my screen. We're going to give you a very brief presentation. Sheila and Adam Odell from Stantec are going to do most of the talking. I'm just going to kind of start us off and help with Q&A at the end. And we'll try to keep an eye on the Q&A box too, if people add questions there. And the other person I'll introduce is Courtney Sims, who you all saw her on the screen earlier with her assistant for tonight. Her son Sawyer. So we'll just do a quick presentation. It's a mercifully short PowerPoint. It's only 8 slides, I think, and then save some time for Q&A. So again, I'm just kind of starting us off. Sheila will talk about kind of the why the city's doing this project or making these improvements at the pump station site. Adam will talk a little bit more about the details. Sheila will talk about next steps. And then we'll just take whatever questions and comments you all may have. So I'll go to the next slide and turn it over to Sheila.
All right. So I'll just start by giving everybody a little bit of project background. So we're discussing the Sexton Mountain Pump Station. And if some of you are by this pump station, you know that it's currently under construction. We're in the midst of finishing up phase 1. But before I get into that, I just want to let you know a little bit about the pump station. So this pump station was built in 1993. So both the pump station and the adjacent 15 million gallon reservoir which has solar panels on it, was built in 1993. The solar panel project was actually constructed in 2015. But this is one of our most critical pump stations to the city. It is the only one capable of pumping to Cooper Mountain, which is our highest elevation. And so all those high elevation residents, they'd be out of water if we didn't have this pump station. So it's about 16,000 city residents that are supplied by this, by the Sexton Mountain pump station. And so with that, we're currently in the midst of phase 1. And phase 1, the objective is to increase the energy efficiency. We are replacing 2 of the pumps. There's 4 pumps total. 2 of them are getting replaced in phase 1. And we just added a emergency generator for standby power. So if the power goes out, we'll still be able to continue pumping water. And so this phase 1 is slated to finish early July, so very, very soon, in a few weeks. And yes, so we're gonna, just so everybody knows, there's a temporary temporary path right now, that's going to actually stay in place. And we'll show that, well, actually, I don't know if we'll show that or not, but that will stay in place through phase 2. And the fencing, the temporary temp fencing that we have right now will continue to stay. I just wanted to make sure that people were aware of that. So in phase 2, we're actually building an entirely new pump station adjacent to the existing pump station to the east side of that. And the objective of that new pump station is to, this is considered a booster pump station. We're adding 2 pumps, and we're also adding a hydropower turbine. And so that we're trying to, for a net export of energy, we're trying to provide clean energy to the city. And also, as part of phase 1, we did a structural assessment of the existing pump station, and there needs to be some structural improvements to increase the seismic resiliency of that pump station. So those will be some improvements that we'll do on that effect as well. A couple other aspects for phase 2. The funding, some of the funding will be provided by Energy Trust of Oregon because we are doing a renewable energy project, which is hydropower, and it will also help pay for some of those new pumps because it's increasing the energy efficiency. And we're actually putting in car chargers as well, which aren't funded by Energy Trust of Oregon, but there is a lot of renewable energy projects slated for phase 2. And we will also be improving the architecture. Hopefully nobody's really tied to the blue and white pump station. We're looking to do something more aesthetically pleasing that blends into something more earth tone to blend into the natural features, so it doesn't stick out quite as much. And there'll be a restroom as well in phase 2. So if we could, I guess, could you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So this is, I guess I can't really point to it, but the pump station is located on a parcel that's about 4 acres in size. But the developed area, including adding that new building, we're really not disturbing more than 1,200 square feet. And as I indicated, the property, the city property, which is separated by a right of way, which we'll be discussing at the next NAC meeting. The city property includes a pump station and that 15 million gallon reservoir. And that's located south of the THPRD Sexton Mountain Park, which you can see on in the picture. There you go. And so we are in phase 2, there'll be a pump station building, those electric vehicle chargers, car chargers, as I indicated. And the surrounding use is that a solar farm, that park, Sexton Mountain Park, and it's surrounded by single family residential. Next slide. All right, and then the zoning, for anyone interested, this is R5 residential zoning, and the comprehensive plan, the Beaverton comprehensive plan designation is standard density neighborhoods. And so the land use application, what we're going to be applying for is a modification of a conditional use. So my understanding is when this pump station went in the first place, it was the first conditional use. So this is considered a modification of that conditional use. And now I will turn it over to Adam Odell at Stantec to discuss the proposed site plan and features.
Thank you, Sheila. I'm Adam with Stantec. We're the engineering consultant on the project. So what you're seeing is a rendering that we had our architects do just to try to show everyone kind of the look and feel of what the site will look like when it's done. Sheila alluded to this, but we do need to remove the roof of the existing building because we have to make some seismic upgrades to that structure. So when we put a new roof back on, we're going to go ahead and make it look all sort of like it was constructed at the same time together. The new pump station's probably going to be, it might end up being a little bit bigger than what you're seeing on the screen, but it'll nominally be about 1,000 square feet. We'll have to make some slight fence adjustments. And Sheila already alluded to this, but we are going to keep the path. We don't see a need to do any path enhancements. Could you go to the next slide, please? Inside the pump station, we're going to have a couple of booster pumps, and we are currently planning to install at least one hydro turbine. So the hydro turbine is in the lower right-hand corner. It looks just like a pump. It's basically a pump that works in reverse. The city of Beaverton does get a lot of water from a wholesale supplier, and it comes in at a very high pressure, and we can take advantage of that pressure and that flow, and we can create some energy off of that before it gets dumped to the reservoir. And then the booster pumps, it sounds counterintuitive, but the booster pumps actually save the city energy because they will reduce the load on the pump station that's next door that pumps to a very high pressure with very big pumps. And so we can target what the pressure of what these are going to pump to. So we're probably around 1,000 square feet. We're probably going to have a single restroom facility. A car charging station will be adjacent to the facility, and we're just, pretty early in the design, but we're right about the 30% design stage. We'll probably, we're going to push to a 60% beginning in July, and we'll put together a 60% set of drawings that we'll submit with a land use application, which will have all of the things that are needed for the application. We'll go through a completeness review, post a public notice in September, and then there will be a formal public hearing come October, and we're anticipating construction to begin spring of 2022. I think that's it. Any questions?
And for the individual who's calling in this evening, I just want to let you know to raise your hand, use *9, and that'll indicate to us that you'd like to ask a question audibly.
I know we went over that pretty fast, so if there's anything that you want me to repeat or want to go over again, just speak up.
You guys are an easy crowd tonight.
I know. I was gonna say.
Don't see anybody in the chat.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah.
Q&A.
Our Q&A. Wow. Yes. So you'll be at Planning Commission in the fall.
That is the plan.
Yeah. Which is another avenue for people to, if you have questions throughout this process, that's another way of weighing in on the process.
Yeah, and I think you can also send questions to Sheila. You could send questions to Franziska, and she can send them to Sheila. So I think, yeah, anytime along the way, if people have questions, let us know.
Great.
Sharon, I'm surprised the former planning commissioner, AKA you, has no questions.
I don't. Well, the only question I had actually got answered. When I saw the EV charger, I got excited and I thought, can I plug in? But no, that's for City Fleet.
Sorry.
So, but no, I think pretty straightforward and just a modification of conditional use. So, all right. And if there are no other questions, please feel free. Thank you so much for your presentation. If you would like to hear about restaurants in downtown Portland, and we also have another land use.
You mean downtown Beaverton?
What did I say?
Downtown Portland. It's okay.
Right.
Oh, okay. No, Portland is, yeah, all the chefs are moving here. Okay, so no, we have a couple more presentations that are coming up, and one of them is a land use issue, and the other one is Megan is going to do her presentation on Beaverton restaurants. So feel free to stay if you'd like. Otherwise, thank you so much for your presentation.
All right. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I'm going to stick around for Megan's. I want to know.
Okay.
I'm going to take myself off video so you don't see me eating my dinner.
Okay. All right. So now I think that this next one is a neighborhood review meeting for a multi-family developmental proposal that is actually in Neighbor Southwest. So I will have Alison Balbag introduce this next one since it's in her NAC.
Thank you, Sharon. So our next item, as Sharon mentioned, is the neighborhood review meeting step for a multifamily development proposal located at 15584 Southwest Scholls Ferry Road. Just so that everyone attending tonight is looped in, the purpose of a neighborhood review meeting is to provide neighbors and community members an opportunity to become familiar with a development proposal. And it's a chance for the community to identify any issues, to voice any concerns, and to ask the developer questions. The city expects an applicant to take into consideration the concerns and recommendations of the neighborhood when the developer is preparing their application. And just so everyone knows, the issues, comments, and questions from this meeting will be included in the application packet that the developer will later submit to the city. And everything from this meeting, all of the input and feedback received from our neighbors and community members will be considered by the city during the application review process. So we will hear the presentation from Pacific Community Design representing Scholls Development LLC, and then there will be an opportunity for Q&A and concerns from the attendees tonight. So with that, I will turn it over to Maureen Jackson from Pacific Community Design.
Thank you. And actually, I'm going to turn it over to Stacy Connery with Pacific Community Design.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen here, so just bear with me for a moment, hopefully. Okay, are you seeing the PowerPoint presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. My name is Stacy Connery. I'm with PCD, or Pacific Community Design. We are the planning and engineering consultant for Scholls Ferry Development. And tonight we have planners and engineers and the developer here to help answer questions once we get through the presentation. And we are looking at an apartment development on the property that you see highlighted in blue in this slide. It's located south of Scholls Ferry Road, east of Winterhawk Lane, and west of Bunting, generally northwest of Progress Lake. What you're looking at now is our proposed site plan for the apartments. There will be 3 buildings, which will include 96 units among the 3 different buildings. 34 are 1-bedroom units and 62 are 2-bedroom units. There is an existing wetland on the south side of the property, which is heavily treed, and the wetland buffer and the trees within that area will be retained. We'll be providing 126 parking spaces in between the buildings and along the southwestern edge of the property. We are not allowed to connect vehicular access to Scholls Ferry Road, but we are required to connect to Winterhawk and to Bunting. So there will be vehicular connections made to the east and to the west. And we will also be providing pedestrian connections both east-west and a pedestrian connection north to Scholls Ferry Road. Let's see. This plan will provide a little more detail on the western edge of the project, which for the portion of the project that has parking adjacent to the western property line, there will be a solid 6-foot-high wood fence along that edge and a 6-foot-wide planter strip, which will be planted with a dense hedge, similar to what you're seeing in the photo here, to help to block any potential headlights so that they won't escape the property onto the neighboring property. For the portion that the arrow is pointing to right now, we'll continue a 6-foot-high solid wood fence, and a 3-foot planter with lower shrubs. And there will be a sidewalk adjacent to this area, adjacent to the drive aisle into the project. And this northern portion of the pole will also continue the 6-foot-high solid wood fence, but then we'll have a sidewalk and then a planter strip with trees and bushes within the planter strip before reaching the drive aisle. And we'll share a couple conceptual elevations of the buildings. The building on the left side of the screen is on the northern edge of the property. And you're looking at the northern building and the middle building here. The northern building will be 5 stories and the 2 southern buildings will be 4-story buildings. And this is the middle building and the southernmost building. And at this time, we're happy to open it up to any questions that you may have. I'll go back to the site plan for reference.
There is a question in the chat that reads, why aren't they allowed to connect to Scholls Ferry Road? Connecting to Winterhawk takes a lot of cars through a lot of Windsor Park.
It has to do with the functional classification of Scholls Ferry Road and the angle that it is where where a vehicular connection would come into Scholls Ferry Road. It is basically not possible to meet the transportation requirements of making that connection, so we're not allowed to.
Stacy, quick question on that. When I drove by the site, does that create a double T intersection where you tease out onto Scholls Ferry and it's offset with on the other side with another, it's not aligned?
That could be one of the factors too.
Okay.
I also see that Coden in the audience, and Coden, I apologize, I wrote Colin in the chat, but here, I see your hand up and I have permitted you to talk, so feel free to unmute yourself.
Hi, thanks, Rose, I appreciate it. Yeah, I had a few questions, and it's Stacy, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I am a homeowner on Winterhawk Lane. And so really what we have is we have a loop of homes, right? And so the plan proposed here is to, in essence, cut a direct lane to this complex. In addition, what it will do is it'll inherently connect the apartment complex right next to it, right? So currently we have a parking issue with the complex that is existing there. And so there aren't enough parking spaces for those folks. And so they are parking in the neighborhoods directly across from, across Scholls Ferry. And so currently it looks like you have 126 parking spaces. And based on, if you had one parking space per bedroom, that'd be 158, right? So we're lacking right there, 32 spaces. So I have a few concerns. The first, well, quite a few concerns, especially if you can't connect Scholls Ferry, which means number one, we're going to have an excessive amount of traffic coming through our neighborhood now, which was originally a closed loop. Nearly everybody who lives in the neighborhood has small children. There aren't speed safety bumps or anything like that, right? Speed control systems. So that would be my first issue is how are you going to handle overflow parking coming into the neighborhoods? Who's going to control that? In addition, who and how are speed safety guidelines going to be managed? And then in terms of safety equipment, so if there's a fire, right, having fire vehicles and things of that nature, only having access through Sheldrick Way is seemingly impossible from my perspective, unless you have a direct Scholls Ferry access. what are your plans for those items?
Okay, well, the parking regulation will be a function of the management of the apartment complex. It'll be something that they review with tenants as they rent apartments as to the number of vehicles that will be allowed, and they'll have a program to manage that as they go forward. In terms of the road connections and speeds on those roads, those are public, it's a public road to the west, and there is a public access easement to the east. And, you know, it is something that the management company can advise their tenants on in terms of enforcement of those speeds going forward. That will fall to the city to enforce. As part of this review process that we'll be going through with the city of Beaverton, we are required to obtain a service provider letter from the fire marshal. And so the fire marshal will review this plan and make recommendations as they see fit to assure safety of fire life safety access to the project. And they'll make recommendations for improvements if they see need for those. My understanding, if I'm remembering this correctly, Maureen, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we are installing fire sprinklers in these buildings.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and did I hit all your questions, Coden?
Yeah, to a certain degree. So for my takeaway from what I understand is the city's going to be responsible for safeguarding the neighborhood for excessive traffic, you know, people speeding, things of that nature in terms of safety equipment coming through. The fire marshal will be the one to determine whether or not having a single access point through this neighborhood is sufficient rather than coming through Scholls Ferry. Is that correct?
It's ultimately their say.
Okay. Got it. So there'll be, I mean, pretty much what I'm picking up is we're on our own unless the city's going to help us with traffic. I mean, essentially we have 20 homes, maybe even less than 20 homes in a closed loop. Right. I mean, I'm just saying this for the community here on the call. So we have about 20 homes in a closed loop. And essentially what we're talking about, even if all, you know, if 126 parking spaces are filled, which chances are they will be because it'll require 158 spaces for 1 car per bedroom, which, you know, typically renters, that's kind of how it works. Okay. So we're talking you know, a 96 unit place. We're talking 96 more homes essentially coming up this very small stretch of neighborhood. It doesn't seem reasonable to me at all, especially with Scholls Ferry. Can you please reiterate why you can't just connect Scholls Ferry and just go through Scholls Ferry?
We have tried to work through that with the city, and we had our traffic engineer looking into that. He would be able to speak much more specifically as to the reasons why that would not work. My understanding is it's a combination of the functional classification of the road and the level of traffic volumes on the road and how the curve of this road would interact with traffic coming in and out of this intersection, and that it would not meet standards and not be safe to permit.
Right. So they need to install another stoplight essentially, right? So if the city's planning on, hey, you can't do that, but you can just funnel all these people through a single neighborhood access point is pretty excessive to me, but that's fine. I'm just trying to understand. Okay.
We have a few other people in the chat and in Q&A. And I think actually, Coden, it might kind of piggyback onto some of the concerns that you've expressed. But one of them had to do, what is the timeline?
The timeline? We hope to be able to submit a land use application within the next couple of months. Once a land use application is submitted, there is a 30-day completeness review, which sometimes can take a little back and forth. Once the city determines the application to be complete, they schedule it for a public hearing, usually within 8 to 12 weeks of determining that it's complete. And then a decision is typically made at the public hearing. Once there is a decision for approval, then it transitions into a design stage, and the engineers would work on the final design of the project, which would then be submitted to the city for review and approval of the final design, which can take 3 to 4 months as well. So before construction probably would not get started until next summer at the earliest.
And one of the things I wanted to point out in the land use process, when the application is submitted and deemed complete, there is a facilities review where a lot of entities within the city, it could be fire, to Coden's, he suggested something about fire safety and access, but fire and all the entities within the city weigh in. That is not part of the public process. You can attend, but you cannot actually make any testimony. The beauty of this, as far as this meeting and the beginning of this process, is working with the group that is proposing this to make your recommendations, your issues known, so that you can have some influence on the process. And there have been in the past many people who have come forward with proposals for development, that the development itself has been massaged in a way because of all of you being here tonight and getting involved in the process early. I do want to mention that there's somebody, I think it was Liz Balderston, who mentioned something about the retained wetland area. How large is it and how far from the southern property edge to the southern building?
Let's see. Patrick, can you help me with this question?
I'll unmute myself first. Hello, everyone. My name is Patrick Espinosa. I'm the engineering manager at Pacific Community Design. Yeah, I can answer that question. That retained wetland is roughly 200 feet from our southern property line. That whole area with the wetland and the buffer surrounding the wetland is about, I'd say about 3/4 of an acre in size. Hopefully that answered the question.
Liz, does that answer your question? Is Liz still on? Okay.
Yes. Sorry to hop in here. Just trying to keep track of doing it in the order of that things were asked. It looks like there's some stuff in the chat and there's some stuff in the Q&A, but I want to make sure that everybody's questions gets answered. So there's a couple in the Q&A as well that say, will the entrance or exit through Winterhawk also be opened up for the Trillium Woods apartments?
Well, we will be required to connect to both access points. So it'll have the effect of there being a connection through there.
And then a follow-up to that is, as someone mentioned, there are not enough spots for Trillium Woods apartments. How will you prevent people from parking on Winterhawk in the neighborhood?
Well, we can only speak to this particular project, and it will be something that the management company of these apartments will have to educate their tenants regarding and make choices in how they select tenants who can satisfactorily live with the parking that's available to them in this project, educate them and let them know they're not supposed to be parking on Winterhawk.
Franziska, you're doing the Q&A and I'm doing the chats. Any other in the Q&A?
There are some in the Q&A, but the chat has some that came in before that. So feel free to go on to Shelby's question.
Okay. We had one about issues with people from those apartments. How is that going to be fixed? Parking in our streets. So parking is a common theme here that I'm sure is going to continue through the land use process until the public hearing as well. I don't know if, is it Laz who asked that question, if you wanted to weigh in any further on that for any other explanation. If not, Shelby has asked about, is this proposal the same as the last one in which 80% of the significant tree grove will be removed?
It is the same as the last iteration in terms of tree removal.
And another question. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
As part of the tree removal, we're required to provide tree mitigation, and with Beaverton, it will occur in a fee in lieu of mitigation so that the fees can be used to plant trees throughout the city.
Next question was, is the apartment complex manager to monitor the apartment complex cars in the neighborhood? Is it their responsibility?
Their responsibility will be limited to this site and trying to manage their tenants within this site.
So there's, a common theme here between traffic and parking and access. As I go scrolling down, what is the difference between this project plan and the one which was withdrawn in mid-May? Why was the original one withdrawn?
This is the same application that was withdrawn in May. We had to withdraw that application in May because there was a 120-day time clock that started ticking basically once the application was accepted as complete. And we are still working with the property owner on the east side regarding a tree that is on the property line and working to obtain property owner authorization to remove that tree, and working with Trillium Woods Apartments owner. There is a easement that exists on the Trillium Woods property that was put in place for the future connection of development on this site that has some existing trees within the easement that was set aside for construction of an access point, and we're working with them to finalize their authorization to remove some trees.
All right, I'm going to jump in here with a couple more questions from the Q&A. So the first question is Winterhawk set up to handle hundreds of additional cars? Why is Scholls Ferry protected, but not a neighborhood with children and pets not protected?
Winterhawk is a public local street, which is typically intended to serve local neighborhoods, and it was stubbed to this property line with the intent at some point in the future that connection from development from this site would connect to that road. there are just different standards that apply to local roads than apply to an arterial. And the future connection of Winterhawk to some sort of development on this site was anticipated in the future when this project was constructed. I know it may not feel that way, but the fact that the public street was extended to this property line, that's part of the intent with a development pattern, is to provide for access of future developments that are abutting.
Great, and I'll just ask one more from the Q&A for the moment, and then Sharon, you can get back to the questions in the chat. So the next question is, what is the status of the sewer access that was requested of one of the Sheldrake neighbors?
There is an easement that's been provided. And so we're continuing forward with design of a sewer connection there.
Okay. Okay, I'm picking back up on the chat, and it looks like a question about the public hearing being about 5 to 6 months. Is this where we have a voice to fight this? I believe that you mentioned that your timeline was 2 months to do your application, 30 days to deem it complete. Your 120-day clock runs. So your proposed planning commission, going to planning commission, I'm not penciling out in my head here where that would fall.
It really depends on when the application is deemed complete. If we assume an application is deemed complete, say in September, we would likely be scheduled for a planning commission maybe late November or early December.
Okay. And I would just mention to everybody who is listening, this is, don't wait until that November, December. Keep in contact with the group who is proposing this, have that open dialogue, write down as many of the concerns and things that you have. If you are an insomniac and you want to go onto the website for the city, there is a development code that has a whole lot of things, because the ways in which you do your testimony at Planning Commission, you can contact me for sure, because I've been through this process before, and I'm on another committee with the city that is trying to really work out a readable, accessible land use handbook for people to know how to effectively give testimony and know the process of land use. So this is really important for those people who are pursuing this whole process on any land use issue. Next is whose decision to retain the wetlands?
Whose decision to retain the wetlands?
That's James' question.
Okay. Well, when we begin to look at developing a piece of property, one of the things that we have to do is work with the Division of State Lands, if we are impacting a wetland, to propose a fill permit, Division of State Lands, Corps of Engineers, which is a significant process to go through to be able to fill a wetland and demonstrate that you have no other alternative but to impact that wetland. We have not gone down that path to try to fill the wetland. And there is also a more of a local agency, Clean Water Services, which also regulates sensitive areas and the buffers adjacent to those sensitive areas, which have a similar process for any impacts to sensitive areas and buffers. And we did work through this proposal with Clean Water Services and have obtained their approval of this project. There are some minor impacts to the edges of the buffer for the stormwater outfall and for some temporary grading impacts along the edge of the buffer. Those impact areas will be revegetated.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna jump in here and say that I see that there are hands up in the audience. I don't know that we'll be able to get to every single question that got posed tonight, but as city staff, I have access to the Q&A report. I have access to the chat, and we'll be sending both of those to the proposed developer so that they can incorporate all of the questions and feedback that we are hearing tonight. So just so that you know, even if it's not directly answered at the meeting tonight, it will be sent to them. And I'll put my email in the chat as well as the two chairs, Sharon Dunham and Dr. Balbag, that you can also keep in touch with throughout this process. But really quick, we've got time for a couple more questions here. So another question in the Q&A asks, could you explain the density calculations that were used to determine occupancy? Is it net of the wetland area, i.e. just buildable acres?
Maureen, could you help me with this one? I don't remember offhand.
I don't remember as well.
Okay.
I
can talk about it if you want.
I do believe it's a net calculation. Maureen, if you wouldn't mind, try to look that up and see if we can.
Yes. Yeah. I
I think one of the where we're looking that up, Connor had a really good question at the end here, which I think kind of frames everything. And it is, how do we keep in touch with the planners and the city on this subject? Because of all the numbers of questions about parking and timeline and testimony and other issues that are common threads throughout this Q&A and chat. Franziska, do you want to put in there contact with the principal planner and with the city so that people can maintain contact throughout the process?
Sure, absolutely. I will also put my email address as staff. And like I said, I'll also put the email addresses of the two chairs. And I am always happy to be a facilitator, a liaison to the city for anybody in the audience tonight. If I don't have the answer, I'll definitely connect you to the person that does. And I didn't want to preemptively wrap up the Q&A. I just see that we have lots and lots and lots of really great questions. So I just wanted to let folks know, we still have one more agenda item. So we'll get through as much as we can get through. And if we have time, we'll certainly allow the folks that have their hands raised to provide commentary. So I'll put those email addresses in the chat here in just a moment. Maureen, do you know who the principal planner is on this particular application?
It is Lauren Russell.
Okay, perfect.
And
it might be, yeah.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and put Lauren's email in the chat as well. So the next question that I have, and then Sharon, if you want to go through the chat and see what questions that are still outstanding that haven't already been answered, that would be great. So the next question is, what is the predicted percentage of traffic to/from the Slight through Winterhawk versus Bunting?
I am sorry, I do not have that information on hand. It will be in the traffic study that will be submitted with the application when it's submitted to the city.
Great. And has this project obtained a permanent easement agreement with Trillium Woods for access to Bunting?
Trillium Woods was required to provide a permanent access for the use of this project when that project was approved and developed.
And there was a question from Cotton, and somebody also asked to have this addressed. It seems a better access point if Scholls cannot be directly accessed would be Mallard Drive be a better choice. It seems to have a better setup for it.
Where is Mallard Drive?
Yeah, so Mallard Drive is directly across from the project plan. So rather than Sheldrake, if you kind of zoom out from, I can't remember which slide you had it on. Actually, I was just looking at the original project plan. So right across from Progress Lake, there's a whole area where you have a very large conduit that could handle traffic and safety vehicles and things of that nature. And I'm curious why you couldn't connect to that rather than Scholls Ferry, because it has direct access. Mallard has direct access to Scholls Ferry as well as Barrows Drive. Seems like a logical point there, right? Like through that corner.
The wetland that is on the southern portion of our property through here continues south off our site and it continues west. So a connection that way would require a significant impact to the wetland that is in between where development is proposed here and Mallard Drive.
What about a bridge?
I'm sorry, which road did you say?
No, just making a bridge, like a community bridge to that area over the wetland. I mean, you laugh, but I'm dead serious. I'm dead serious. You know.
Well, the challenge is when there's a site like this and there isn't a abutting road to it, that is typically where we're required to take access. And so this has a resource area on it, and we are supposed to be looking at the areas on the property that are developable and minimizing our impacts to the resource areas and utilizing the existing transportation facilities that connect to the property. And so that is the approach that we have taken with this development plan and have been guided to with consult from the city, with city planning staff and engineering staff.
What if money wasn't an issue? Would you be able to do it then?
There's permitting issues as well with the Division of State Lands and the Army Corps of Engineers. There's a permitting process that would have to be gone through, and there's no way that I can guarantee something like that given all the money in the world. It's not a question that I can give you a definitive answer to.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Is there an ability to do on-site mitigation of the wetland?
This site is so very tight in terms of the development area on the site that there really is not an opportunity for on-site mitigation.
Unless the scale of the building were shrunk.
Well, something I should have mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, this property has a TC HDR zone on it, which is Town Center High Density Residential. So it is anticipated that there be higher density on this property. And so it's with looking at development of any site, there's significant layers that we have to evaluate and try to come up with the plan that will be the most feasible. And impacting the wetland and trying to mitigate for it on site is not a viable option for this project due to the impacts to the resources and the significant expense that would be involved there.
Understood. Thank you for answering that. It seems like, I mean, if the city's planning had a plan for high density properties here, it seems like there should be a plan for direct access to Scholls Ferry, because that's a high density, high throughput vein for traffic and resources. So I'd expect the city to accommodate that.
if we could make that connection, we would be making it.
So really quick, Coden, thank you so much for all of your great questions and comments. I just want to give a member of the audience who has specifically requested the opportunity to say a few words before we wrap up here. There's still a lot of questions that haven't been answered, but like I said, I'll be sure to be passing those along to the development team that's here with us tonight. But I am going to give Coble a chance to say a few words in the last couple of minutes here.
Hi, is my audio working?
Yep, we can hear you.
Great, awesome. Thank you for giving me a chance to speak. My name's Adam. I'm one of the residents that lives in the lower density housing just west of the proposed development here. And I've heard all the conversations, and it's all making sense. It sounds familiar with some of the other discussions we've had, months ago. What I wanted to mention is that the recurring thing here is that there's a lack of infrastructure, and this development happens to land, very near the demising boundary between the, high density zoned area, which is from this property to the west, and the existing established lower density housing that's been here for over 20 years, and which is to the west. And us owners that are in that area with the lower density housing have a vested interest in not having a connection to this high density zoned area. It has a lot of negative impacts on the value of our homes, the quality of life that we have in that neighborhood. And so as individuals, as homeowners, and as a group, as a neighborhood, as a community, we have a very low interest in connecting to that. And so us in the Windsor Park area and the neighbors surrounding, I think we have a common interest in trying to separate the development of the high density housing from connecting to our community. And I just wanted to voice that because there's a lot of negative impacts which have been voiced: traffic, safety. One thing that wasn't mentioned is crime. There's been, even with the temporary removal of the wooden fence that's along that boundary, there's immediately cars that got, there's an easier access to the public. There's cars that got vandalized and damaged and robbed. So we know it's an issue, and we know it's an issue that we don't want to deal with permanently. So anything we can do to mitigate that would be appreciated. And really our goal is to separate the development completely from the existing neighborhood, if at all possible. And I know money is an object, it's always an object, but we have our investments and we have an interest there too. So just wanted to make that clear. And that was all I had. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
And really quick, I'm also, we have a call-in attendee who has their hand raised, and since they can't use the chat or the Q&A feature, I want to give them a few minutes to talk as well. But before I do, for the development team here tonight, is there an email address or some other contact information that you could put in the chat, since there are definitely more questions than we have time for? Like I said, I'll also send you the full Q&A report and the chat for your development proposal as well. But if there's a way that folks could get these questions answered directly so they're not left hanging, that would also be great. So in a moment here, so the person that has their hand up that is calling in, you have been given permission to talk. If you just press *6 to unmute yourself, we'll be able to hear you. And that is the phone number ending in 1916. If you can hear me. All right, if you
It
are
still
able
appears to
to
be muted.
push, sorry?
It still appears to be muted.
Yeah,
And we cannot physically do that for this person.
unfortunately not. So if you press *6, then that should unmute you. Oh,
All
there
right.
we go. Hello.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries.
My name is Steve. I live in Windsor Park and just wanted to echo what Adam said. You know, if this, I kind of had a question if this was just an extension of the same owners as Trillium Woods or if it was a separate party. But it seems very similar in the, you know, in the type of renter, the type of high density situation there. And they've, you know, have the easement through Trillium Woods. So however those residents are accessing it, and if that's sufficient for them, I don't know why they would need a separate access in through Windsor Park that would you know, affect you know, home values, speeding, concern about children at play, potential crime, you know, and what that previous person had said about Mallard. If you actually leave out of Trillium Woods, I believe, you know, you can basically wind down through the townhomes, which is still higher density than Windsor Park and those 20-year-old neighborhoods. And then that would take you right down there to like Mallard Drive, where you aren't going by all these different homes. People aren't having like their front yards looked at with everything that is left outside. You know, there really aren't homes so much along most of Mallard Drive. It's just kind of like a drive around part of the lake, you know, without a lot of properties directly kind of facing onto it, you know, especially not with like yards and different items and vehicles and all that. So I just was kind of wanting to see, you know, why this would be needed at all if it's not needed for Trillium Woods and it's just basically an extension onto that, and you have the easement. And I also just want to echo that I'm concerned about losing 80% of the trees up there. I consider those trees as like a landmark. They're beautiful and can be seen, you know, all in the area. And I think they raise like the home values in the established neighborhoods around there quite a bit. And to lose 80% on this new property seems very like a lot. And seems like a shame. I kind of wonder why they couldn't have just sold this property and made like a few traditional homes or something like that on it instead. But anyway, those are my thoughts, and I appreciate you listening to me.
Thank you. I know that zoning has a lot of, you know, underlying features that are built into decision-making in this process. I do want to say again that as I, being a member of a NAC and going through a lot of land use issues within my NAC over time, educated myself to the process. And I would invite you to ask questions, do the same, keep in contact. I see that Patrick and Maureen have both put their contact information here. Maintain that contact, maintain that dialogue, write down your questions, your concerns. Go to the website and utilize the website for land use so that you are actually following development code. I totally get what you're saying as far as the last caller, as far as saying, you know, I mean, why not just do something that is like traditional homes? Well, when you have an underlying designation for land use and R5, R7, whatever it might be, in this case not, then you need to be aware of those issues. So please reach out to any of us, because there's a learning curve that's a part of this, and really the communication is the key. And so to get in on this as you have tonight and before this in the development process is so important. And we're here to help you. We're here to make sure that this is a process that is followed through. And so save the chat. Again, for maybe people who came in a little later, you can go into the chat, go down to the bottom. If you see the ellipses, the little 3 dots there, you can print out that chat, and all of those contact information pieces will be printed out for you. And again, to Franziska's point too, we are here to give you more information too in other ways. So I think we're at just a little over time.
I just wanted to, since Dr. Balbag is the chair of the Neighbor Southwest NAC, and she did such a great job teeing this off, I just wanted to give Dr. Balbag an opportunity to wrap up this presentation. I've put hers and Sharon's emails in the chat, but before we move on, I wanted to close as we started.
Thank you, Franziska. I just wanted to extend a huge thank you to all of our neighbors and community members for attending tonight so that your voice is heard. Again, just to reiterate what's already been said, all of the questions, comments, and concerns that were heard tonight or that were written, even if they weren't addressed live, those all are recorded, and those will all go into the developer's application when they submit it to the city, and all of that feedback, all of that input is considered by the city. So thank you for participating tonight.
All right, thank you. So and for those who just were presenting, if you want to hear a fantastic presentation about the expanding restaurant scene in Beaverton, Megan, where are you? There you are.
I'm here.
Megan Braunsten, I have had the opportunity to hear this at least a couple of times, and I swear you are the most energetic, wonderful presenter for fantastic information that is in our neck of the woods in the downtown area. So please welcome and take it away.
Well, thank you, Sharon. My name is Megan Braunsten. I work with the city of Beaverton in our community development department over in our development division, working very closely also with our economic development folks. I support small businesses, especially those in downtown and along Allen Boulevard. So we're slightly out of your neck of the woods, but all of you are users of the downtown, because downtown is meant for all Beaverton residents. So hopefully today's presentation will be very relevant to you. I am going to share my screen. Can everyone now see my slides? Wonderful. Okay. So I have the pleasure of being part of a restaurant strategy team that since 2016 has had the goal of making Old Town the premier restaurant destination of the West Side. So we have been actively recruiting restaurants into downtown since 2016. And frankly, we've been really successful at what we have done. We have been able to recruit 33 new restaurants just into downtown Beaverton since we started collecting data in January 2017, compared to 11 closures or moving out of downtown. We also have I thought this was a really great statistic, the number of restaurants that have opened during COVID is more than those that have closed. Almost no other jurisdiction can say that about their downtown. Not only that, We have 14 new restaurants coming that I'm here to tell you about today that are all going to be opening this year. So hopefully you guys have good stomachs ready with a great appetite, because we have a lot of appetizing food ahead of us. I did sneak 2 of those, actually, of the 14 have officially opened, so they should have been on the already open list, but they just opened and I want to tell you about them. So I've included it on today's list. So let's go through. Let me first tell you about the 2 that have already opened. So for those who have not been over near City Hall recently, since these meetings are virtual, actually, I believe your meetings were never over at City Hall, but if you haven't been near City Hall in Beaverton Central recently, the Hyatt House Hotel is officially open, and they officially have a bar on the inside. So you can definitely go get an amazing martini if you would like. And then catty corner to that, right behind probably Franziska and my favorite haunt of a coffee shop near City Hall, we now have Clover and Boot, which is a kombucha bar. So that's kombucha tea. So that's what she's pouring here in the picture. This picture is a little misleading because, frankly, this is the only part of the store that actually is about kombucha. The rest is an amazing indoor plant store, including pots and everything else that you want. So if you have not visited her store yet, it is amazing. And the instant that we're allowed to be working back in the office on a regular basis, ooh, am I going to be spending money? And I'm going to have an entire jungle at my cube, and it's all going to be coming from her store. Okay, so now let's talk about what hasn't opened yet. So let's go over to Broadway Street. So this is where Beaverton Bakery used to be. We have 3 new restaurants that are coming in, all signed leases with construction starting here in the next, actually, couple weeks for Binary Brewing. So the first one here on the retail side, where Beaverton Bakery used to go in and be able to get those great baked goods, Binary Brewing is expanding and moving over to this location with their full brewery and tap room. They will be partnering with Rough Draft as the food provider. So you'll get a beer from Binary and an amazing smash burger from Rough Draft. And they will be in the bottom story space, which is now opened up between the historic home and the retail space. Then over here where Big O's Pizza used to be, oh, I miss Big O's, it was so yummy. CC Coffee Company is coming in. They are a super trendy, cool coffee shop that also sells motorcycle gear and has a motorcycle theme all within the same coffee shop, and has some really fun food options. So they will be opening probably a little later than Binary and Rough Draft, but will definitely be opening this summer, late summer as well. Okay, let's hop over to Lombard. So this is at Lombard and between Farmington and First. This is where the Stars Strip Club used to be. And now it will be K-Town Barbecue. If you guys haven't driven past here recently, please do. It is completely transformed. The construction's still going on, but you can't even tell that it used to be the strip club anymore. So these are renderings of what K-Town will be. It's a Korean barbecue, as in you can cook the barbecue at your own table. And oh my God, talking about regulation, each of those have a hood above them. And I learned way more about hoods and structural engineering than I ever needed to know when this project was coming in. But I'm super excited for them to open this summer. Right across the street from that, the former Waba Grill has been purchased by, you may know them as Burger Stevens. Again, another smash burger phenomenon. They currently have a cart at BG Food Cartel as their first presence in Beaverton, but they purchased this to actually do some real chefing, I believe was the quote that I got from the owner. He wants to open a French bistro called Chez Stevens. And so they hope to open this fall with some amazing martinis and other mixed drinks, along with some French fare. Okay, let's hop over to 4th and Angel. I hope you're following me on the map. So this is over a little bit closer to the high school, like a couple blocks from the high school, but up on 4th. This is where La Vida Veggie used to be. They closed a couple years ago, which was super sad. And they've been purchased and actually fully transformed into UB Sushi. Frankly, they should open any day. I wonder if I think they're waiting possibly for the summer rush to start, but they are ready to pop open, and I'm super excited. So if you went and you looked in the window, it looks exactly like this. I'm very much excited. Okay, let's go to what we call Restaurant Row, which is really that couple blocks that focus around First and Watson. So this building is where you used to be able to do Arthur Murray Dance Studio was a tenant in this building. It's called the Bank of Beaverton building. BURA, so the Urban Renewal Agency, actually purchased this building when it went up for sale because it is the gateway to Restaurant Row right there at Farmington and Watson. It immediately flipped and sold this property to a developer who we knew was bringing in an amazing tenant. COVID then hit, so the tenancy actually changed. Luckily, it had been a tenant that had multiple different restaurants that they partnered with. And so they're bringing in one of their new, another concept, excuse me, called Loyal Legion. So Loyal Legion has one location currently on the east side of Portland, and has 99 local beer taps, some root beer taps I also hear, so you don't have to only drink alcohol, and some really yummy German food. They are converting the parking lot that's immediately adjacent into 100% outdoor dining. I actually think that this is an older image, so the outdoor dining picture will look totally different, but it'll all be some lovely outdoor dining for those of us who maybe aren't feeling as comfortable eating inside a restaurant quite yet. Okay, let's hop over to the NAC building. Man, this is an outdated picture. I don't know if you guys have been there recently, but the NAC full building got a full gorgeous storefront improvement. I have got to change this so that way folks can see the new storefront improvement. But here where Dukubi restaurant used to be, another one of my favorite folks, will be First Street Pocha. So it's going to be Korean street food, which I am told is very different from the traditional Korean food that you get from Nakwan, but will be very good complimentary fare. And they're currently under construction and will also be opening this summer. Okay, catty corner to that. Again, we're still at First and Watson, where Hot Box used to be. Will be 2 new restaurants. It's currently under construction and actually should open in July. Here on the Watson side is going to be Sudra. Again, this is probably an older image, so this won't be exactly what it looks like, but Sudra is a vegan, plant-based Indian restaurant. And Sizzle Pie, which I hear is amazing pizza. I admittedly don't get to, my diet doesn't allow me to eat things like that these days, but I hear that Sizzle Pie is amazing. So all of you who can eat pizza, please enjoy for me. Okay, and finally, around the corner, just recently purchased, was the 3rd of a block property on Angel and Farmington. And Breakside Brewing has purchased it and basically has 2 to 3 projects. This first project, which will be the one that happens this summer, is going to be the conversion of what is currently a parking lot and a building where the vault used to be. For those who don't know, the wonderful vault dress shop hopped over a couple spaces and is now located in the same building that Ex Novo is in, which is called the Katie Building. Anyways, in that space is now going to be a food cart plaza where they're going to get 4 to 6 food carts along with a really cool container bar. After this, Google container bars. They're so cool. Where they convert a train car into an actual bar, and they may even have seating on top. It's super, super cool. They're building it in the Netherlands, and our regulatory folks get to talk with the folks in the Netherlands to do Zoom call inspections. It's a super cool activity. Anyway, so this is what's happening this summer. And then the building that used to be Rose City Modern, furniture and other stuff, about 2,000 of the 3,000 square feet will be a Breakside Brewing restaurant. And then another 1,000 square feet will be another food concept to be determined. These will probably not open until probably early to 2022, the building itself. Okay, I just threw a lot at you. I'm probably going to skip most of the slide other than to tell you that Beaverton's now on the radar in a huge substantial way. The restaurant strategy that City Council has really been pushing for the last 5 years has really been successful. We are now getting calls from restaurants who want to move here and open here instead of us having to do the cold calling, which we used to have to do back in the day. And so now our jobs are kind of shifting. Our jobs are shifting to how do we support, oh God, now we have all of these restaurants and users and people on the street right there in downtown. How do we make sure and support that infrastructure with lots of things? And we have all this new construction happening near City Hall. How do we really help make sure that that's curated and the right tenants are coming in? And so the first thing that I think of when I think of considering how do we help out with the current restaurants and what's happening there, I think of parking, and that's what most people think of when they think of that. So I would like to do a shameless plug. If everyone would please, after this meeting, go to beavertonoregon.gov/parking and take the parking survey that is currently available. The parking survey talks about everything. We want users, we want business owners, we want employees, we want people who don't drive but still use downtown to please take the survey and let us know what you think about parking. These pretty pictures that I have here are also a shameless plug for our First Street Dining Commons, which we ask about in the survey. We ended up taking 11 parking spots away from use by cars over the pandemic to specifically put in this outdoor dining, socially distanced space area. What do you guys think of it? Do you think that we should continue this? Or do you think that we should return it to parking? These are some of the questions. And since I hear that we have multiple people, like obviously myself, who have kids, we just put in a kids area finally and switched over to some new summer look. So if you haven't been there in the last few weeks, definitely stop by and be able to take out food and alcohol from any of the local restaurants and be able to bring it here and enjoy it here. Okay, since I have you and I have, I think I have one more minute, I hope that I can plug 2 more restaurants with improvements, 2 of our current restaurants that just did an update. So if you guys haven't been to Mocha Tea House recently, they're right there on Farmington. This is what they look like before. They did a major renovation, and this is what they look like after. This was the inside before, and this is the new renovations. It's so colorful and beautiful. And I also wanted to plug Tan Tan, one of our long-standing, wonderful places where I eat lunch regularly, and I'm sure Franziska did too. This is what it looks like today, and you should definitely stop by. This is where we used to maybe be able to order. They now have this really great, beautiful space that's specifically meant to show off their merchandise and their lovely sauces that they have a line of, and their new dining area. So definitely support our 2 local restaurants. But that was everything, and I'm happy to answer anything related to restaurants in downtown or any other questions you might have.
Questions for Megan? Do we see anything in, nothing in Q&A? And I'm glad you mentioned the parking survey. Thank you for doing that. And the dining commons, I know that, I think I mentioned this to you before about the potential for a street vacation.
Yes, you mentioned it to me.
Yeah. So, you know, as a potential, it's kind of a hard thing to hit in the planning commission, but where that converts that to a not temporary but more permanent use. And also Restaurant Week. I know that's more of a Beaverton Downtown Association thing, but can you speak to that?
Absolutely. So Beaverton Restaurant Week is actually 11 days because apparently we don't know how to define what a week is because we want it to go over 2 weekends. It always happens at the last weekend of September over into the first week of October. And it is where we have an entire list. So if you go to Beaverton Restaurant Week, the website, you'll be able to see this beautiful map that shows you all of the specific deals that our restaurants are offering. So they are offering a special menu item just for that week. And we have Instagram contests, etc. But you can go try new things that they're really wanting your opinions on. And it's super fun. So thank you for that. I also, if you don't mind, I saw a question in the chat. Am I seeing Portland restaurants wanting to move to Beaverton? And the answer is definitely yes. So Sudra and Sizzle Pie, for example, have Portland locations, and we definitely get calls from other Portlanders who are ready to come out where the cool people are, which is all of us out here on the west side.
There's another question in the chat, I believe. Adam asked if saying it's awesome to hear about all these new restaurants, and I couldn't agree more. Is it available to get your presentation anywhere online? I know this isn't the first time we've had somebody ask about your awesome presentation.
I'm happy to PDF it and give it to Franziska to share with this group if that's the appropriate way, Franziska.
That is just fine. I'll make sure it gets appended to the minutes as well. But if folks are looking to get that info sooner, since the minutes have to be approved before they can be posted, I'll put my email in the chat again, and I'm happy to send it your way.
Megan does a fantastic job at this. I mean, you can't help but just, it's so infectious that you just want to run down there and check out everything. And I think my husband's going to kill me because of the plant store. I have more plants in this place, and I walked by it. I got the tour of the Reeser, Patricia Reeser Center for the Arts this past week, and walked by and saw all those plants in there, and I thought, uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, my husband's not going to be happy with my checkbook when we go back to work either. It's definitely, I'm definitely excited. But don't forget, that's our second plant store. Staghorn Retail still exists. Staghorn Mercantile in Old Town. So we have some competition. I probably will do half and half.
Did they wind up moving?
They ended up moving same building, but into a slightly different spot. So that way they could have some sexy flooring and expand, because they were so popular, they were ready to expand. And then the vault moved into their spot.
So are they in the martial arts one?
Yes, so they're over in the martial arts. Okay. And since I'm still in the recruitment mode, just FYI, if you have any, we're switching a little bit of tech. We need more Staghorn Mercantile vault type retail. So if you have any really great retailers you want to see in downtown that you think after you've eaten at one of our great restaurants in Restaurant Row, you'd really love to walk by this retail X, let us know. We would love to have the community source some of our new recruits.
I do have to mention, though, that parking is the one thing that keeps coming up when people think about, oh, do we want to put a gallery in there? Or do we want to do this or that? Parking does, it's the perennial thing that comes up.
Absolutely. Parking survey, parking survey, parking survey.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, Megan. That was wonderful. And I'm regretting not eating dinner before our meeting tonight.
Oh no.
My stomach's really been talking, but thank you so much. That was so great.
Absolutely. My information's in the chat. If anyone has any questions, please let me know. But I have to go put down my 5-year-old, so I'm going to exit. Thank you both. Thank you all very much.
Megan, thank you so much. I can listen to you all day. Okay. So next up, this is kind of anticlimactic, is our NAC Business. And I'm going to just go through that. Our minutes are being transcribed from the recordings, and so they will be posted as well as the recordings themselves. And treasurer's report, and that, Jim, you are on.
Yeah, understanding that there was hot button issues that went on tonight in respect of our time. Nothing has changed since last month, but there will be changes for next month. So tune in for next month and we'll have a full report then.
Thanks, Jim. I think Sharon might have froze. So Dr. Alison Balbag, over to you.
Thanks, Franziska. So our next item is our visitor comment period. If we have any attendees tonight who would like to introduce themselves or ask any questions or provide any other public comment, this is the time to do that. And again, you can use the raise hand function at the bottom ribbon at the bottom of the Zoom window. Or Franziska, can you please remind me what the shortcut on the keypad is for folks who might be calling in on the phone?
Yeah, the shortcut is *9, but it looks like our call-in attendees have left. So, but what I'll do, since it is the visitor comment period, is I'll just go ahead and give permissions for anybody who wants to share. You don't have to, but you are more than welcome to introduce yourself, make any comments, but now all guests have permission and access to talk. So you're welcome to unmute, but again, not obligated to. I think Sharon should be hopping back on in just a moment here. But we definitely want to thank all of the attendees for being here tonight. I know it can be a bit strange, you know, in this virtual format and having to, you know, have it set up like this for preventing Zoom bombing. So we really appreciate you all being here and participating fully in the way that you have.
Thanks, Franziska.
Franziska. Oh,
please, is it Janet?
Yeah, I'm Janet Roberg. I'm on the HOA board for Windsor Park and was asking several questions and heard several of our neighbors and whatnot asking questions. So I just wanted to thank you. I think this is a great way for us to learn and understand, you know, what's happening. And was just curious, do we know how many people were on the call at its peak by any chance?
Yeah, definitely. 28 members of the community were here at its peak.
Wow, that's great. Good turnout.
So definitely a very involved and engaged bunch of folks. So that's always a really great thing to see. So we hope that many of you, if not all of you, will join us for future meetings, you know, as we continue to discuss things happening at the city level. And I'm sure all members of the NAC board feel the same.
Yes. Yes, thanks for coming, Janet. And since you mentioned you were in Windsor Park in Neighbor Southwest, I also wanted to put out the announcement that Neighbor Southwest is looking for community members who are interested in joining the Neighbor Southwest NAC, either as a board member or a leadership position also. So please know that that opportunity is available as well.
Great, thank you so much for that announcement as well. Definitely important to let folks know if they want to be involved more. There's certainly opportunities to do that. I myself am probably quite biased as the public involvement coordinator, so I'm always here saying, hey, glad you're here, please get involved. I've put my email in the chat in several different spots, so also don't hesitate to reach out to me if you're interested in other engagement and involvement opportunities at the city. But Bonnie, I think you wanted to say something really quick.
I just want to know, we're going to continue with the Zoom because I prefer it.
Yes, so that's actually a really great question. So regardless of pandemic conditions, restrictions, we have heard from so many folks that, you know, being able to attend these meetings from the comfort of your home is really great. So we're going to be moving to a hybrid model come the fall when in-person meetings start to resume, but we'll definitely maintain the element that allows people to participate remotely because there's lots of different considerations, you know, for folks. It might be driving at night, it might be childcare, you know, there's all sorts of different obstacles that, you know, requiring in-person attendance certainly is doesn't lend itself well to. So I'm glad it's really working for you, Bonnie, and we're really glad to have you here.
Thanks. It's been interesting.
Well, I think Sharon may have just had technical difficulties, so I'll turn it back over to you, Dr. Balbag.
Sure, thank you. Were there any other folks in the attendee pool that wanted to say anything tonight? Not required, of course, it's just an opportunity if you would like to.
I think Sharon is back with us.
I have no idea what happened. It just stopped and my computer was hot. Red hot.
I think Mercury's in retrograde right now, so that's probably probably what's going on. So
it was a treasurer's report that just stopped her whole computer.
Oh, my apologies. Oh, I've never had that happen.
No problem. So Sharon, we were just taking visitor comments from folks, and were there any other additional members who wanted to say anything tonight?
I would like to know how many found this meeting through Nextdoor. If there's a way of, I don't know, through raised hands or unmuting, or I want to know how effective that is. I got some feedback from people on Nextdoor.
It looks like one, it looks like Michelle has raised her hand that she got, or I'm sorry, Michelle, was that a raised hand for a question?
Nope. I saw it on Nextdoor.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Now, I'm not sure what I missed. So Alison, I'll let you close it out.
Sure. So it doesn't look like we have any other further comments at this time. I'll give it going once, going twice. All right, so if there's no further comments or questions at this time, I'd like to thank everyone for engaging in our community tonight to support a wonderful Beaverton for everybody. And I think that adjourns our meeting tonight. And thank you so much to our wonderful staff liaison, Franziska Rose, for being so attentive and detail oriented for us and providing all of the information in the chat for everyone. So we have that visually. Thank you so much, Franziska. And thank you to everyone tonight. So I hope everyone takes care and we hope to see you soon.